It is time for another edition of the Fight HQ podcast. Of course, I'm Jason Foy, as always, joined by the fighter Pete Rogers Jr. here to break down UFC Vegas 107 goes down on Saturday night inside the UFC Apex, or actually technically Saturday afternoon out in Las Vegas. Prelims scheduled to start 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time there in Vegas. Main card, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Main card on ESPN. Prelims on ESPN+. Pete, how's it going, man?
What's going on, Jason? Happy to be back after having a week hiatus. Excited to have some fights to make some money on, to play some DFS lineups, and of course to play some bets, whether we're chasing winning methods or we're trying to build a perfect parlay.
It's like me over here right now. Was watching a little bit of the Panthers game because I've got the Panthers minus a goal and a half tonight, some plus money. Also, I don't think we're ever going to get the Thunder better than minus 3.5. I took that a little earlier today, so that's kind of what's going on in my world over here. Of course, this is a fight card that has gone through some changes. The Brahimaj Goff matchup has not been officially announced by the UFC, but it is out there. We're going to see, and obviously when we talk about from a DFS aspect, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at that fight because Goff and Brahimaj already had their salaries out there because they were supposed to have different opponents. Both of their opponents had to pull out of the fight card due to visa issues. He's actually had 3 fight changes over the past couple weeks. One being Oban Elliott, who was supposed to take on Brahimaj, pulling out. Ko, who pulled out of the matchup against Goff, and also Jeremiah Wells, who pulled out due to undisclosed reason for his matchup against Andre Gustafsson, who is now going to be taking on Trevin Giles. But, Pete, as we start to kind of look ahead to UFC Vegas 107 and looking at the salaries, so I've wrote notes on 3 fights, just general notes. GP priority, Reese versus Dusko.
Totally agree.
This next one, I just wrote trust issues. Jordan Levitt versus Kurt Hallbach.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
I agree with that.
For the opening fight of the night, Dos Santos and Elise, no thanks.
Yeah, dude. Golly. I mean, what are we doing with some of these lines attached to some of these fighters? I mean, goodness gracious. What a world we're living in mixed martial arts in 2025 with the lines that are set, the fight cards that we're having to deal with. I mean, granted, it's better than no fights, but, it's difficult for us because, golly, you got to get behind some fighters that you do not trust at all.
The $9,300 price tag on Dos Santos just sticks out to you going, you know what? If you're looking for leverage spots this week, the opening fight I think is probably going to be very much a leverage spot in that one. But oh God, I can't imagine myself clicking her at 9,300.
Yeah, I mean, depends on how many lineups you're playing, right? But definitely in a single entry or in cash games, there's no way.
No.
I'm just not going to do it. I'll let everybody else chase that. All in all, man, I agree with some of these salaries, and then obviously we're going to have a tremendous value with where Billy Goff is compared to where the betting line is going to be. So I think salary is not going to be a problem. You're going to have as much as you need or as much as you want to spend with. And I think that it's probably going to be a week where you have to leave some on the table per usual.
And I think Vieira and Chiasson is an interesting matchup for GPPs. That's probably a fight that, from the betting side of the equation, I'm going to be looking at what those decision props when we start getting some of those prop bets out here this week. But I think that's kind of a fight that I don't mind getting to for DFS.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I have it actually as a solid fight, like an above average pace. And it's obviously at a sweet spot for DFS at 8,200, 8,000 at a pick'em of a fight. So it's very tough to get away from. And I think it's one that's going to be necessary.
And I would say also potentially, and this was kind of a fight that I almost thought about considering a must-have in terms of GPPs, is the Dustin Jacoby Bruno Lopes matchup. Lopes made his UFC debut back beginning of the year. He got 5 takedowns, but also 14 attempts to get those 5 takedowns. And Jacoby, I mean, you know what Dustin Jacoby is. I mean, he's a kickboxer, and we're a couple minutes into this one, Pete, and we haven't even mentioned the main event yet.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, right? We've already seen one fighter give a lesson to Erin Blanchfield, if you will, and that's Manon Fiorot, stuffing the takedowns, beating her up on the feet. Maycee Barber's going to look to try to do the same thing and replicate that. But we've also seen Maycee Barber, look inconsistent at times. I remember backing her, and granted it was with a knee injury against Roxanne Modafferi, against Alexa Grasso following that. But there's potential surrounding Maycee Barber, but I don't know if there's polish, like skills. There's potential, but I don't think she's as polished as Erin Blanchfield is within the ground game.
Of course, we will have a DraftKings contest up later on this week. A link for that will be put into the description of this show. Also, you can join our Discord channel, totally free to join. Also, Pete's got his Patreon page where you can get access to the premium tools that he has over there, and with the algorithm.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, say it. Put it on Echo. No, it's been awesome, right? Like the projection system has been doing pretty damn well. Last week it went 92, and it's solely how it's a tool that helps me project fights, predict fights, look for spots whether it's takedown props because of the takedown volume, whether it's striking defense, thinking that somebody's going to get knocked out. It's a ton of stats combined, and I really do like it. And obviously everybody that's been a part of the Patreon, I think we're at like 25 members or something crazy, Jason, already 25 supporters of the Patreon. So I really, really do appreciate that, and looking to keep the momentum going and keep the riding the hot streak. 9-2 last week. I'm looking to go undefeated this week, but we'll have to see.
Of course, let's get right into breaking this one down here. Our main event is a female matchup, key matchup here in the 125-pound division. Erin Blanchfield takes on Maycee Barber. Erin Blanchfield is a minus 245 betting favorite over on DraftKings. She's priced at 9,100. Barber plus 200 betting underdog. She's priced at 7,100. Last time we saw Erin Blanchfield, it was that decision win against Rose Namajunas. This will be her third straight fight that is scheduled for 25 minutes. She has gone the distance in her last three fights, that being against Thalia Santos, the fight Pete already mentioned, Manon Fiorot, and then, of course, her last matchup against Rose Namajunas. Maycee Barber, we've not seen her since March of 2024. She get a decision win in that one very quietly. And I was even kind of surprised by this, Pete, is she's very quietly on a 6-fight winning streak. It just, and probably because the inactivity we haven't seen with her in the last year plays into that as well. 7 of her last 8 fights have gone the distance. And the one note that really did stick out to me, Pete, is this is the first time she is scheduled for 25 minutes in her entire MMA career.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you have to side with the fighter that has the 25-minute experience. I mean, just naturally, knee-jerk reaction, you always have to. I mean, time and time again, we see these fighters put in main event spots, and they're great for 3 rounds. And then in round 4 and round 5, they either start to taper off or they fall apart, or the veteran kind of comes back and, starts to steal those rounds. And if any of the other ones were close, now you're on the outside looking in. With this matchup, right, I view them both as prospects. I mean, pretty clearly they're very, very similar. I mean, one year separates the two. I feel like Maycee Barber's been around a little bit longer than Erin Blanchfield. Is within the UFC, fought pretty talented competition, had some injury issues, has always had tremendous hands for women's MMA. Her wrestling, offensively, it can complement her game, but defensively, I do feel like it's a slight hole. And it's just like, I don't know whether it's fight IQ or it's just lapses in judgment. I think a smarter fighter with a strategy can beat Maycee Barber. But, I mean, let's be honest. I think the betting odds are just a little too wide in Blanchfield's favor, even though I do like Blanchfield in this matchup. I was kind of expecting the line to be like minus 175. I think that would have been fine for Erin Blanchfield. Obviously, with the 5-round experience, with the grappling pedigree, with the wrestling, I think that's perhaps why we're seeing Blanchfield with such a large price. But I feel like people have to be careful here because Maycee Barber is so live to win this fight. Like on the feet, she definitely has the better hands. Blanchfield's striking is improving. She's very aggressive. They're both very aggressive. And I think that when two aggressive fighters meet, they're going to clash a lot. So that does favor the grappler, right? Like they're both going to close the distance whether they mean to or not. and it's going to result in a clinch. And the clinch should significantly favor Erin Blanchfield because of the grappling and wrestling. Maycee Barber can threaten with takedowns in her own right, can defend takedowns, can even offensively look for her own takedowns. But the 53% takedown defense rating is totally going to be tested of Maycee Barber's. And you have Erin Blanchfield over 25 minutes. She's going to attempt about 10 takedowns. So I have her landing north of 4 takedowns if this goes 25 minutes. Granted, Blanchfield's takedown defense hasn't really been tested all that much because who the hell wants to take her down? If anything, maybe to just win or solidify a round. Her takedown defense sits at 80%. I do think a fighter of Maycee Barber's caliber can look to grapple just in moments, but I definitely don't think it's a wise decision. Sprawl and brawl your way to a decision or try to hurt her on the feet and get her out of there. So the volume of everything, like Blanchfield's going to attempt more strikes. Blanchfield's going to attempt more takedowns. I trust the defensive skills of Blanchfield a little bit better. And then what I have seen from Maycee Barber's recklessness, I trust the fight IQ a little bit more for Blanchfield. And then you mix in the 5-round experience against top-notch competition. I mean, she just beat Rose Namajunas for crying out loud. She just fought, Manon Fiorot. So the girl's absolutely legit, and just one poor performance where she totally got schooled against Manon Fiorot, I don't think it really is going to deter her career or prevent her from, being a title contender for years to come. So give me Erin Blanchfield here. Granted, it's a steep price tag, but I do think it is warranted. I don't hate the fact of a stack because I do expect this to go 25 minutes. The likelihood of a submission clearly lies with Erin Blanchfield, but I can see this touching the later rounds. And given 7,100 Maycee Barber's salary, I don't hate it as a punt play. It's just like she's not going to score takedowns here, so she'd have to land a ton of strikes, and she's probably going to get taken down and controlled and ridden out for majority of the fight. So with all that being said, give me Erin Blanchfield here. I think she's in a pretty good spot, priced at 9,100. Even though the betting lines at minus 245 or whatever you mentioned is a little wide for my liking, I will be picking her here.
Yeah, I don't really love this matchup from a betting aspect because the minus 245, if it came down a little bit, okay, I can see that maybe becoming a parlay piece in a 3 fighter parlay, but I just don't like the price tag. Maycee Barber, if you're like playing from a DFS perspective, if we're talking about like cash games, head-to-heads, those type of contests, that I don't mind putting Maycee Barber in there just as a low-end punt option. Maybe she goes out there, even in a loss, let's just say she gets you 40, 45 points. But my concern really is her getting taken down. I think all of your over 3.5s are just going to be juiced. I don't think there's going to be a lot of value there. Maybe you can get somewhere near close money on Blanchfield to win by decision. I would imagine that's probably going to be minus 125, minus 150 would be my guess where that line's going to kind of be there. But, look, from a DFS aspect, I think overall it's you take Blanchfield or you just move on. And we're talking about GPPs.
Yeah, I agree for GPPs. The upside clearly lies with one fighter.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, our co-main event is in a matchup of the lightweight division. We got Matesuz Gamrot taking on Ludovit Klein. Klein is a plus 145 betting underdog. He's 7,700 on DraftKings. Gamrot minus 175 betting favorite. He is 8,500. Last time we saw Gamrot was back in August, a split decision loss against Dan Hooker. Since 2021, he's 7-2. Both those losses have come via decision. One of the things that really does stick out to you about this fight when you look at that tail of the tape, Pete, it is a takedown average per 15 minutes of fighting. For Matesuz Gamrot, 5.25. Klein has a 91% takedown defense. When you look at Gamrot's last 9 fights, so this is dating back to 2021, he has landed 38 takedowns. Klein has not been taken down in any of his last 4 fights. He is 6-0-1 in his last 7. 6 of those have come by decision, and he is coming off a decision win against Roosevelt Roberts back in September of last year, Pete.
Yeah, I love this co-main event. I think it's a fantastic matchup. One where Ludovit Klein has really surprised me, and he's turned into an absolute machine within the division. He had some early setbacks against Michael Trezano. He ended up getting submitted in the third round against Nate Landwehr. Then he beat two talented fighters in Devontae Smith, Mason Jones, and had a draw with Jai Herbert. And he's just been on a complete tear. 4 wins in a row. Ignacio Bahamondes, Cunningham, Thiago Moises, and Roosevelt Roberts. I mean, not the type of competition that Mateusz Gamrot has been facing. But I will tell you, just the way he looks from optics, he looks fantastic. He's very, very dangerous on the feet. I think the damage criteria is going to lie with Ludovit Klein here. I think all the damage in the rounds, or majority of it, is going to be when he's striking. I mean, like, his striking is fantastic. He has a beautiful high kick. His boxing has improved. The guy looks like he doesn't skip strength and conditioning at all. And he's going to need every ounce of his conditioning here because he's going up against one of the biggest pace pushers in the UFC, and that is Mateusz Gamrot. I mean, let's call it what it is. And it's kind of fantastic, Jason, because and amazing, because I'm looking at these metrics and I'm looking at these stats for both of them, and it's just fantastic output. Like, Mateusz Gamrot, 3.23 significant strikes landed per minute, 3.81 for Ludovit Klein. So pretty similar. They're both, almost attempting 7 strikes a minute. And then we go over to the takedowns, and that's where Mateusz Gamrot really blows the doors off of Ludovit Klein in the takedowns attempted per 15 minutes. I mean, takedowns landed per 15 minutes for Ludovit Klein sits at 1.7, for Mateusz Gamrot 5.25, which, when you take into their accuracy into account, that is 15 takedowns attempted for Mateusz Gamrot per 15 minutes and 3.3 for Ludovit Klein. So clearly we're going to have a striker in Ludovit Klein who will be mixing in takedowns if a round is close, or to perhaps throw off Mateusz Gamrot. And Mateusz Gamrot's going to strike enough to get some respect, but he's going to be shooting for like his life depends on it. And that 91% takedown defense rating for Ludovit Klein is going to be tested early and often. And I don't think it's the initial takedowns that he's going to struggle with defending. It's the second, third, fourth takedowns strung together, because Mateusz Gamrot's chain wrestling, I think personally, is probably the best in the UFC. I mean, leave a comment below. Let me know who you think has the best chain wrestling in the UFC. I'm kind of just going, shooting right from the hip right now, saying that he does, but I really can't think of anybody else who wrestles as aggressively as he does and strings together various attempts, from throws to trips to sweeps to, like, he incorporates all of the beautiful grappling, the blended style of wrestling into judo, into sambo. Like, he does it all. So we're going to have to see if Ludovit Klein's takedown defense is really 91% in this matchup. My pace rating, which is on my Patreon, has Gamrot's pace rating at a 9.31 in comparison to Ludovit Klein's 5.81. So the pace pusher is totally Mateusz Gamrot. It's just, will he be effective enough? And that's a really, really hard thing to project before the fight because of how talented both of these guys are in the defensive standpoint. I almost think that you throw enough stuff at the wall, something's got to stick, and that's kind of what I am going to be backing here from Mateusz Gamrot. Is, yes, the effectiveness, the striking damage of Ludovit Klein could steal some rounds, and it could literally just be one significant strike for pointing the round to him. But the minute winner is going to be Mateusz Gamrot. So it's going to come down to the minute winner in Mateusz Gamrot versus the moment winner in Ludovit Klein. I'm going to lean towards the volume, Jason, and I really, really wouldn't fault anybody for picking one or the other. This is a fight for me where I think that the defensive skill set of both of them is so fantastic that I may take a hands-off approach for DFS, because I wonder if they almost nullify each other. Yes, there's going to be tremendous volume, but I wonder, can they really get above 85 fantasy points more than half the time? I mean, I think that they can, but I do have so much respect for both of these fighters. I will be backing Mateusz Gamrot here, but I don't hate anybody or disagree with them, significantly if you're backing Ludovit Klein here.
Yeah, I mean, I think my only concern with Klein is what is that path to getting 85 points if we're talking about a 15-minute decision, which that's kind of what I see, and
Yeah.
I would probably prefer to get to the Gamrot side of the equation just because of that takedown upside and whether or not this Ludovit Klein truly is a 91% takedown defense. If that's truly what he is, yeah, you got to really like him in this underdog spot. I mean, I would say this. I would much rather get to Klein as a betting underdog at plus 145, and hell, if the lines, if you could get double that of him winning via decision, that's something that I would look at from the betting side because
great point.
I think this has 15 minutes written all over it. I don't see either one of these guys going out there and getting a finish. To me, it just comes down to can Klein, can he contain the takedown game of Gamrot? I mean, that's where it is. I mean, I think overall, I think more times than not, Gamrot's going to win this fight. But if I'm looking for some value, on the betting side, Klein at plus 145, and then whatever that decision prop ends up being. Of course, it's only a Monday. We'll get those decision props here later on in the week. Next up, we got a matchup that's not been officially announced by the UFC, but it's out there. Brahimaj taking on Goff. Brahimaj plus 270 betting underdog out there. His previous price tag, and this is why it's going to be a very interesting matchup on the DraftKings side of the equation because he's 6,700. He was initially supposed to take on Oban Elliott, who had to withdraw due to visa issues. Billy Goff, a minus 340 betting favorite. He was a favorite in his previous matchup against Hung Khoi, and he is 8,300 over on DraftKings. Last time we saw Brahimaj was a first-round TKO win back in November against Mickey Gall. He has alternating wins and losses in the UFC, 3-3 in the UFC. When you look at Billy Goff on the other side, we've not seen him in just over a year where he had the decision loss against Trey Waters. Since that matchup, he's had 3 opponents pull out of fights with him. 2 of them back in February, 1 here. And, of course, Pete, I know you're very familiar with Billy Goff.
Yeah, I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, Billy Goff's been trying to get in the cage for quite some time. And everybody in New England's been waiting for him to get back into the cage. And he's been dealt with a ton of opponents that have fallen through, matchups that kind of fizzled out. And now he has an opponent with a visa issue. And Brahimaj's opponent has a visa issue, so they paired him up. And I like that, right? Like when you put multiple fighters in the same weight class on the same card, it's much easier to kind of patch the fight back together. You know what I mean? Like save the fight by having the 2 guys that dropped out paired up against each other. So Brahimaj and Billy Goff will now be facing each other. Billy has the best pace on the entire slate. Like he really does. According to my pace metric, 11.38 is his pace rating. I mean, everything that he does is super high volume, very, very aggressive fighter. He has a pretty solid strength of schedule too. He's fought very talented competition in all of the promotions within Cage Titans to CES, the Dana White's Contender Series. We really haven't seen the potential, or most people haven't seen the potential of Billy Goff. I will always be rooting for Billy Goff. Anybody from New England, especially within our area, especially when I hear that you're a great kid, I'm going to be rooting for you and fighting alongside him on several Bellator cards. I can just tell you he's aggressive and he has wrestling to back it up. So he's not just a striker. If you are getting swarmed by his striking and you have no answer, he's going to TKO you. If you have an answer for the striking, he's going to start to grapple you and look to chain takedowns together. So according to the UFC stats, his strikes landed per minute, 8.56 strikes landed per minute, which is 18 attempted per minute, which is ridiculous. He's going up against a fighter in Ramiz Brahimaj, who is more of a grappler, did just come off a very nice knockout win, but that's totally not his wheelhouse. It's improving, yes, dealing with the VFS team in Chicago, but his best path to victory is incorporating his grappling, looking to get the back and choke you out. Billy Goff on the feet should have no problem here. Ramiz, his striking defense sits at 43%. When we take the wrestling into the equation, that's where things get interesting because we have seen Ramiz be on the receiving end of getting taken down, getting muscled in clinch, getting busted up. I mean, he's notoriously known for his ear exploding in the Max Griffin fight, which was absolutely disgusting. But there's moments in that clinch that led to that where it's like, all right, that's a weak spot. 2.01 takedowns landed per 15 minutes for Billy Goff with only 17% accuracy, which basically translates to 11.8 takedowns attempted per 15 minutes. So whether he's striking or he's grappling, Billy is pushing a pace, and most people are going to break. His conditioning his conditioning and his toughness are probably his best attributes, and I just can't say the same thing for Ramiz Brahimaj. Very talented in the grappling department. We have seen him on the regional scene. When he's attempting takedowns and they're getting stuffed, he does look like he loses confidence a little bit, gets hit, gets hurt, and he doesn't necessarily look for a way out. It's just he's not as talented in the striking as he is in the grappling. So I think that this is a very winnable fight for Billy Goff. For DFS, he's priced at a sweet spot salary where he's going to be the most popular fighter on the entire slate, given the massive tag that is attached to him, sitting at 8,300. I'm going to prioritize getting him in my lineups. The one thing I will say about Billy Goff, though, is he's super hittable. Very, very hittable. And in a lot of his fights, he gets hit, he gets hurt, he wakes up. And that's when he's at his best. And some fighters need to get hit first before they can really click and lock into the fights. That's dangerous at the top level. I don't think a guy in Ramiz Brahimaj is a guy who's going to capitalize on an opportunity like that. But one day I think it will happen. So I hope Billy fixes that. You don't want to have to wake up while the fight is going on. But, credit to Billy's toughness. I'm going to be rooting for him. All in New England's rooting for him. A lot of my friends are good friends with him. So needless to say, he's going to be a priority play for me. And I think it's an absolute smash spot for people to really get to know Billy Goff here.
Yeah, when you look at the price point here, it's tough to avoid. You just have so much value sitting there on Billy Goff. And, when you look at Brahimaj, this is a guy that he alternates wins and losses in the UFC. He's coming off that win back last year. But, to me, the only concern would be is just how massive is that ownership going to be when we're talking about the DraftKings side of the equation. Also, I would tell you this, on the betting side, I would be looking at what are some of Billy's, inside the distance props. That to me may be something I would look at in terms of that one. Next up, we got a light heavyweight matchup. It's Dustin Jacoby taking on Bruno Lopes. Lopes a plus 155 betting underdog, 7,400 on DraftKings. Jacoby a minus 185 betting favorite. He's 8,800 on DraftKings. Last time we saw Dustin Jacoby, a third round TKO win against Victor Petrino back in December. Prior to that matchup, he was 1-4 in his previous 5 matchups. The one stat that definitely does stick out to you, and it can be a little misleading here because Lopes only has one fight in the UFC, is that strikes land per minute. Jacoby 5.33, Lopes 2.89. Of course, he did get, when we're talking about Lopes, got a decision win in his UFC debut back in January. When you initially look at the stats, Pete, and you see that 5 takedowns, like, 5 takedowns. But then when you realize it was 14 attempts at a 35% clip.
Yeah, I like that though, right? Like I like guys that stay busy. Efficiency is obviously the best thing, but activity is the next best thing. And being efficient's great, but sometimes I'd rather a guy just attempt more takedowns, throw more strikes just to give his opponents a look, just to get some respect because, the takedown's great, but the threat of the takedown's even better. And I think that's what you need to do in order to beat Dustin Jacoby. For whatever reason, his frame, when people fight Dustin Jacoby, they kickbox him. And that's literally right in his wheelhouse because, he'll just pick you apart at range. Very, very good jab, very good cross, picks his knees up well, calf kicks well, just an excellent striker. But that's not how you beat the guy. He's a top-notch K1 kickboxer for a reason. A guy that struggled in MMA, went to kickboxing, found some tremendous success. The reason he struggled in MMA is when fighters blended takedowns together. And that's what you need to do. And I do think that Lopes has the skill set to do so. It's just, does he go out there and pull the trigger? Or does he try to kickbox with the kickboxer and drive me nuts? The striking volume is slightly skewed, as you mentioned, because of the limited the fights that Lopes has had in the UFC and on Dana White's Contender Series. But From the looks of it, Dustin Jacoby, 5.33 strikes landed per minute, 2.89 for Lopes, translates to 11 attempted for Jacoby, 6.7 for Lopes. So not only is Dustin Jacoby the cleaner striker, he's the more active striker. And that's why he wins over the judges so often, because he's able to go out. And I think he should have won some other fights too, that for whatever reason, they gave Khalil Roundtree that fight that I thought Dustin Jacoby clearly beat Khalil Roundtree back in 2022. He outlanded Roundtree 120 to 85. Obviously damages, the most important scoring criteria out there, but still, goodness gracious. Listen, this is a very tough fight for Lopes, and Dustin Jacoby's been here, done that numerous times. He just knocked out Vitor Petrino when people doubted him. Every time you doubt Dustin Jacoby, he turns his career around by throwing a massive punch down the middle and knocking people out. I think Lopes is super hittable, as evidenced in the Brenson Hibero Dana White's Contender Series fight. And that is a very, very dangerous thing to say when you're fighting Dustin Jacoby. The one thing I do love, though, and you kind of threw shade to it, but I do like it, is the 2.68 takedowns landed per 15 minutes, 33% accuracy, means he's attempting 8 per 15 minutes. I like it. Go out there. Test that takedown defense of Dustin Jacoby. He'll defend some, but against that 62% takedown defense, I think he can land 3. And I do think that Lopes has the ground game to do something with it. Like, for the most part, Dustin Jacoby fights go long, or they hit the over. But I actually think that Lopes can have some success here if he wrestles early and often. The knack for standing and trading is idiotic going up against Dustin Jacoby. I don't like that game plan at all. So, man, it's tough to say who's going to do it, but, he does have a legitimate ground game to him. He is 5 years younger. And I do think that if the fight does hit the mat, they're worlds apart. On the feet, Dustin Jacoby is clearly the better striker, and it's not even close. But we have seen Jacoby's durability deteriorate time and time again. Lopes can throw big shots, get some respect, maybe tag Dustin Jacoby just enough to shoot underneath and get onto his hips and look to initiate some grappling. Man, I always get Dustin Jacoby fights wrong. I feel like you're always a Dustin Jacoby believer. I'm a little hesitant, but his striking's fantastic. I will be backing the underdog here, though, just because I do think it's a close fight, and there is some grappling upside. So I'm not sure if you agree with me or not, but I'm going to be going with Bruno Lopes here to pull off the slight upset.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jacoby is a guy that I've known for years. I've had many conversations with him. As I think about it, one of my concerns with this matchup is it being in the smaller cage and that being a favor for Bruno. One of the things that always concerns me about Dustin, and look, this is a fight that he's had plenty of times where, when talking about his MMA career, is the fact of going up against someone who's not going to want to sit there and necessarily want to strike with them. They're going to want to take the matchup to the ground. I worry about basically Dustin getting right around that black line and basically being a foot, 2 feet away from being put up against the fence. That to me is one of my concerns. If you tell me that Dustin can stay in front of that black line and make this a kickboxing matchup, I do like him. The price tag to me, if you're going to, when we're talking about from a DFS perspective, if you're rostering Dustin Jacoby, you got to think he's going out there and knocking him out. From a DFS aspect, all the value's on the other side. I mean, let's call it what it is. All the value is on Bruno at 7,400. Like, that to me is, I can see a lot of people just looking at this just from a salary perspective and saying, there is that path for Bruno to take the fight to the ground. You mentioned about it. He's relentless with going for those takedowns. So, I don't mind the upset call here in Lopes. I just wonder if he can't get the takedown. Dustin keeps finding the feet. Dustin just pick him apart. This is potentially a 15-minute decision or maybe a late stoppage by Dustin Jacoby. But I think it's a fight you got to say you got to look at from a betting perspective. If I'm looking to bet Jacoby, I think it's either a live bet him, potentially gets down early on the fight, or you look at some decision props in terms of this one. That's from the betting side.
Yeah. I think that Lopes can look at one fight in particular, and granted, it's been quite some time now. Actually, I mean, it's been 4 years, but just Dustin Jacoby's been really, really active within the past 4 years. Is the Ion Cutelaba fight? Cutelaba landed 9 takedowns, but with those 9 takedowns, Jason, he only had 4.5 minutes, so that's kind of bad. I mean, like that's really bad actually. 9 takedowns, 4 minutes of control, attempted 19. Like I don't expect that type of volume, but that fight ended up being a draw. So I mean, like Lopes has to go out there and work because as long as the fight's on the feet, you're going to be seeing Dustin Jacoby look levels apart.
No doubt about it. Next up, we got a matchup that we already mentioned a little bit earlier about being a GPP priority, and that is Zachary taking on Dusko Todorovic. Todorovic, a +2 betting underdog, 7,000 on DraftKings. Reese, a -260 betting favorite. He is 9,200 on DraftKings. The last time we saw Zachary was that first round TKO loss against Mokoyev, who obviously we saw him a couple weeks ago, just looked absolutely amazing. Definitely a guy to pay attention to in this 185-pound division. Reese, 2-2 in the UFC. Both of those losses have come in the first round via TKO, and 3 of his 4 UFC fights have ended in the first round. Dusko on the other side, he's coming off a first round loss against Abdul Malik back in November. 3-5 in the UFC overall, 1-3 in his previous 4. 7 of his 8 UFC fights have ended via finish. That's why I just look at this one of this just has a recipe, Pete, that you got to roster for GPPs.
Yeah, so this fight's crazy, and I think the line is a little ridiculous because, I mean, like, who has Zachary Reese beaten to get a crazy line? And it's like, I think it's more about what Todorovic is doing than anything. Todorovic has been struggling. This is a guy who was a hot prospect coming into the UFC. He looked good on the Contender Series. He dominated Taquan Townsend, and then he just ran into a buzzsaw in the UFC. Lost to Punahele Soriano, lost to Gregory Rodriguez, picked up a nice win over Maki Pitolo, lost to Chidi Njokuani, beat Jordan Wright, back-to-back losses to Christian Leroy Duncan and Mansour Abdul Malik. I'll tell you what, though, like a lot of those fighters are tough fights. There's no easy fights in anybody that I mentioned there. And the strength of schedule of Todorovic, his opponents have a win rate of 67%, and within his wins, his opponents have a win rate of 63%. Zachary Reese, his strength of schedule, his opponents have a win rate of 60%, and within his wins, a big difference here between the two. His opponents have a win rate of 52%. So, I mean, Zachary Reese definitely is the more exciting guy that has looked cleaner to this point. He does have 6 inches in a height plus reach department, but I'll tell you what, man, like, I just don't trust the guy, and I don't think that he's as good as the lines that are always associated with him. And maybe I'm just a hater. I'm not trying to be, but I just think that I see certain things like the IQ of holding on to a triangle or an arm bar while you're getting slammed on your head. Like getting taken down by Cody Brundage, getting taken down on the Contender Series, getting taken down by Azamat Bakoyev and getting ground and pounded from guard, getting taken down by Jose Daniel Medina, going 15 minutes with him, not getting him out of there, knocking out the corpse of Julian Marquez. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. Is everybody so convinced that Zachary Reese is like absolutely legit? I'm not. I'm not in that department. I don't think that Todorovic is all that great either. He's a guy that I probably overvalued heading into the UFC and throughout majority of his UFC career. But let's call it what it is. Both of these guys have terrible striking defense. 46% for Dusko Todorovic, 42% for Zachary Reese. In the takedown department, you have Zachary Reese attempting 3.5, landing 3.5 per 15 minutes, attempting 6 per 15 minutes. You have Todorovic landing 0.92, attempting 7.6. So, I mean, tons of attempted, and it's more to give a look. It's more to clinch with his opponents. It's more to survive than actually land a takedown. The takedowns and the ground game of Todorovic is simply to get into ground and pound situations and ground and pound positions. Certain grapplers are submission oriented. Certain grapplers are position oriented, and certain grapplers have ground and pound intentions. And that is what Dusko Todorovic has. And I do feel like Zachary Reese is somewhat susceptible to getting ground and pounded. I mean, he got slammed on his head by Cody Brundage when he was attempting a submission, had no eagerness to let go of the submission to break his fall or survive. Bakoyev just completely destroyed him from top position. I really can see Todorovic doing the same thing if Zachary Reese is playing guard in an MMA fight too much. And more often than not, he does end up on bottom when they start to grapple. So for me, Jason, like, it seems so wide. I think that this fight is a necessity for majority of your lineups. If you're playing 150 max, I think that you need to have probably 80% of this fight, if not more. Like, I really don't see how this fight doesn't deliver. I have the pace rating for this fight as being one of the highest paced fights on the entire slate, resulting in two of the highest projections on the entire slate. So one way or another, I'm projecting a big score. When Dusko loses, he gets finished. When Zachary Reese loses, he gets finished. I think this fight is ended inside of 15 minutes. And while it's live, I think there's going to be a ton of violence and a ton of volatility. So when there's volatility and there's wide lines, I like the underdogs a little bit more than the public. I'm going to be backing Dusko Todorovic more than a number and a value play than anything. It's a slight edge in the strikes attempted per 15 minutes. There's a slight edge in the takedowns attempted per 15 minutes from both of them for Dusko Todorovic. There's a stronger strength of schedule. Dusko Todorovic, he does have a win over Michel Pereira on the regional scene, which, say what you want, that's a legitimate win. I'm going to be backing the big underdog here in Dusko Todorovic, but I think one way or another, somebody's going to look silly and somebody's going to dominate, or it's going to be back and forth, and it's just like, holy moly, that was a violent fight that we should have had more exposure to for our DFS lineups. But I will be backing the underdog here in Dusko Todorovic.
I would be relatively surprised if the winner of this matchup doesn't get 90-plus points. I would really be thoroughly shocked.
Totally agree.
I almost look like I just have this vision of Zach Reese counter KOing him.
I could see it, man. Todorovic has the worst striking defense I've ever seen. When he gets hit, it's like somebody hit him with a shotgun. I've never seen somebody's head like fly back as much as him. From Punahele Soriano to Chidi Njokuani, the guy's had a ton of damage and he's taken a ton. That chin is probably completely gone, so I don't blame you. But I agree with the 90-point projection for the winner of this fight.
I mean, look, if you're Dusko, you can't go in there with the game plan of, hey, let's have a striking matchup here. No, you want to take his ass to the ground. Let's not kid ourselves. If Dusko, if you tell me this thing plays out on the feet the whole time, Zach Reese is going out there getting 105 points, if not more.
I think Dusko just needs to be the aggressor, because when he's not aggressive, he's getting the hell kicked out of him. So one way or another, he needs to, I don't think that the Jose Medina fight for Zachary Reese really tests that cardio. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm not convinced that that's like a, wow, he went 15 minutes, so he's not just a finisher. You know what I mean? That was in Vegas too. So
I remember having a conversation with him after that fight, and he had said, he's like, look, he goes, I know what everyone says about me. Everyone says I can't go 15 minutes. He goes, I wanted to prove that I go out there and get 15 minutes. And look, I always think it's not a bad thing early on in your UFC career. Just go out there and get some cage time experience. You want to limit the, potential of losing a matchup, but I think sometimes it's a good thing to have there. Next up,
Paul Craig. That's exactly that same exact fight.
Yeah. Next up, we got Filho and Nascimento. Filho is a plus 140 betting underdog. He's priced at 7,600 on DraftKings. Nascimento, he's minus 170, priced at 8,600. We have not seen Filho in a long time. March of 2024 was the last time we saw him. A first-round submission win against O'Day Osborne. He was previously booked to take on Nascimento back in August of last year. That one did not happen. He is a submission specialist. 10 of his 16 pro wins have come via submission. submission. He's only gone to decision twice in his 19 pro fights. Nascimento, we have not seen him in a long time either. January 2024, he had a first-round submission win against Carlos Hernandez. Since that matchup, he's had 4 canceled fights. 3 of them were due to him pulling out of the matchup. And, Pete, one of the things about Nascimento is, signed to the UFC in 2022, but this is only his 4th fight in the UFC. So the inactivity is something that does concern me.
Yeah, inactivity kills careers, right? And I was just telling you about Dustin Jacoby fighting Ian Cutelaba in 2021. I think he has like 9 fights since that time. So he's like doubled what Nascimento has done in similar time. So, I mean, Nascimento is super, super talented. Both of these guys are super talented. I'm really interested to see multiple sequences in this fight. I want to see who's the better striker. I want to see who's the better grappler. And I want to see who has the better cardio. Because I do hold both fighters in pretty high regard. We have Nascimento and Filho both coming from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu backgrounds, both coming from mega camps. Nova União versus Diego Lima shoot the box. So I am super interested to see the striking. I feel like the overall Muay Thai of Nascimento could surprise some people, and the boxing of Jafel Filho could surprise people as well. But both of these fighters are relatively low volume, Jason. Like 3.21 strikes landed per minute for Nascimento, 2.36 for Filho. They're both throwing about 5 per minute, so that's pretty low compared to the rest of the slate. The takedowns per 15 minutes are interesting. You have 1.55 takedowns landed per 15 minutes for Nascimento, 1.77 for Filho, 5.9 attempted for Nascimento, 5.36 for Filho. Essentially, it's a mirror match between the two. I don't know who's going to come out with the upper hand. I truthfully don't. And I think that they both could have some moments of success. But the defensive numbers are something that are quite interesting. We have Nascimento with 50% takedown defense, 50% striking defense and 16% in the takedown defense rating. That's kind of it almost looks wrong, but it's not. And it's because he's so willing to go to his back, attempt submissions, play guard, look for reversals. He has ended up on the bottom when he's faced some Dagestani wrestlers, but still, I think that they are going to cancel each other out, and it's a fight that I am not prioritizing for GPPs whatsoever. I do think that Filho kind of has the thud, so he might have the bigger moments, but Nascimento could be the guy pushing the pace slightly more in this fight. But Filho, man, I'll tell you what, he's got to be careful because he can't have his back taken by Nascimento. Yes, he does have fantastic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well, but Nascimento's fluidity in the grappling sequences, it's pretty admirable. I like what I see. Everybody from that camp, right? They look like mini Charles Oliveira's out there with their guard and their submission chains. But I'll tell you what, Jason, I don't know why, other than the damage criteria, and maybe it's the 16% takedown defense rating for Nascimento that's really making me scratch my head saying, if he just ends up on bottom in an MMA fight, typically you're losing the fight. You know what I mean? You cannot play guard all the time. You have to be throwing up tons of submission attempts, which I think Jafel Filho will be wise to. You have to look for sweeps. You have to look to get up, get on top. Top guy usually wins in MMA rounds. So give me Jafel Filho here as a slight underdog. But this is one where I'm okay with having sub 20% of both fighters just because I don't think or foresee a high score for DFS. I do feel like this is a very, very close fight. And if you had an argument for Jafel Filho or if you had an argument for Nascimento, I'd hear you out and I wouldn't disagree completely. But I'm going to be backing Filho here with a slight underdog call.
I just feel like I've been burned so badly in flyweight matchups recently.
Yeah.
It just kind of scares me to get there, especially when you look at the price tag in this one. Next up, we got a female matchup. We got Ketlen Vieira taking on Macy Chiasson. Chiasson is a slight betting favorite as we currently sit here on Monday night, minus 120. She's 8,000 over on DraftKings. Ketlen Vieira plus 100 on the betting side. On the DFS side, she is priced at 8,200. Last time we saw Ketlen Vieira was back in October, that decision loss against Kayla Harrison. 10 of her 14 fights in the UFC have gone the distance. The last time Ketlen Vieira won a fight via stoppage, we got to go back to 2017 against Sarah McMahon. Macy Chiasson, she is coming off a second-round TKO win via doctor stoppage against Bueno Silva back in June of last year. She was previously booked to take on Ketlen Vieira back in, I want to say it was February. It was either January or February. But Chiasson did withdraw. She does have a 4-inch reach advantage in this one, Pete.
Yeah, I love this fight. And I love this fight because I do think that Vieira's, I think she's underrated, but I think that Macy Chiasson is more underrated than her. I think that this is a fantastic matchmaking. You have Chiasson here who's dropped the ball a little bit, had that fluky loss to Irene Aldana, getting heel kicked in the liver, got dropped from, it was like, what just happened? That was a super weird moment. Getting guillotine choked against Raquel Pennington. Not a good look, but Raquel, former champ, so let's talk about it. I think that Vieira, is typically the stronger, more physical fighter in majority of her fights. And I don't think she has the physicality edge here, Jason. And I'll tell you what, man, Macy is such a beast for this division that she does struggle to make weight. Her frame is ridiculous. In the height plus reach department, she has 7 inches over Vieira here. So Vieira is going to be struggling as long as this fight is striking. In the clinch, I think that she needs to be careful of the elbows and knees of Macy Chiasson. And not only that, it's the work rate where I'm looking at Chiasson's numbers and I'm saying, I like it. I mean, she's attempting more strikes than Vieira per minute, 8.1 per minute, 7.1 for Vieira. Vieira, in my mind, you think of her as a dominant grappler or one looking to get the fight to the mat, but I feel like she doesn't test her cardio as much because she's so worried about fatiguing, as she has shown in the past. Vieira attempting 3.1 per 15 minutes, and to my surprise, Macy Chiasson can wrestle herself, and she can go out there and push a wrestling and grappling pace on people, doubling the output of Vieira at 6.23 takedowns attempted per 15 minutes. So I'm just telling you, man, like from distance, Chiasson is going to be winning. Close, in tight, she'll be defending some takedowns. She has brutal elbows too. She can knee, she can pummel in, reverse position, and she's wise to the grappling and knows how to offensively grapple and wrestle herself. So I feel like Vieira is going to be damned if she do, damned if she doesn't. Like if she stays on the outside, she could get picked apart, calf kicked, teep kicked up the middle. She closes the gap. Maybe she lands a takedown or two. But I do think that if this becomes a dogfight, Chiasson's got a little bit more dog in her than what I have seen from Vieira. Not to mention that the strength of their wins slightly favor Chiasson by 3. So 65% win rate within her wins, 62% for Vieira within her wins. I just do think that Chiasson could be in a very good spot here. Like a pretty good spot, good volume. And I'll say something, man. I honestly think, what's it, May? By year's end, I wouldn't be surprised if Chiasson wins this fight if she'll be fighting for the title. Granted, we have to see how Kayla Harrison and Juliana Pena play out. We got to figure out if Amanda Nunes is going to come out of retirement, what Raquel Pennington's doing. But like Chiasson has some pretty good wins within the division. Norma Dumont's on a heater, and Chiasson has a win over her. If Chiasson beats Vieira here, I think that within the next year or so, we could be seeing Chiasson contend for the title. And I think she's skilled enough to do so. So yeah, give me the slight underdog and Macy here.
Yeah, I like Macy in this spot too. I mean, I like the fact that she can keep the fight on the outside. And you mentioned a great point of just kind of where she stands right now in this division. I mean, we're going to see how kind of things play out. We got the title matchup coming up in 2 weeks time here with Harrison and Pena. All expectations is that Amanda Nunes will then be coming out of retirement. She'll get the next title matchup. But yeah, I do like Macy here. And I do like the price here at 8,000. I think it's a nice little, if you're looking to save some money on your lineups, I like her in terms of that one. Even though she has been showing the ability to finish fight, on the betting side, I think I'm going to chase the Macy wins via decision prop, because I think you'll get some good value in terms of that one. Next up, we got Trevin Giles taking on Andreas Gustafsson. This is a matchup that just recently came together. Gustafsson's initial opponent initially pulled out of this one. Right now, we don't have any DraftKings salaries on this one. We do have the betting side of it. Gustafsson is at minus 165 betting favorite. Giles is plus 140. Giles, a 500 fighter in the UFC, 7-7. In the UFC, is coming off a decision loss in November against Mike Malott. 6 of his 7 UFC losses have come via finish. He's he's lost 3 straight and 2-7 in his last 9. Gustafsson on the other side, this will be his UFC debut, coming off that win against Pat Pitlick on Dana White's Contender Series. That was a TKO win, and 10 of his 11 wins, Pete, have come via finish.
Weird fight for me. I mean, I think that Gustafsson is interesting. I think he's skilled. But I do think that Giles is super skilled as well. And Giles has been put through the ringer of tough competition and tough strength of schedule. I mean, like, sometimes you look at fighters and you go, why are you taking that fight? Why did your management take that fight? I mean, you may not have had choice in the matter in some of these, but there ain't no way you're getting screwed over and over and over with these matchups. And like Trevin Giles has fought Mike Malott, Carlos Prates, Gabriel Bonfim, Michael Morales, Dricus Duplessis. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, that is a very, very tough schedule. And obviously he's lost a lot of those. But within Trevin Giles fights, you can expect a guy that has had a pretty solid regional career. I mean, on the entire slate, he has the third best strength of schedule on the entire card, sitting at his opponents have a win rate of 70%. I mean, he's fought some very, very tough competition. It just hasn't translated into wins inside the UFC. Outside the UFC, it has. Within his wins, his opponents have a win percentage of 63%. He has clean boxing, very, very clean boxing. He has solid takedown defense sitting at 72%, solid striking defense sitting at 58%, very rangy, just athletic. I think this is a winnable fight for him. I really do. I think it's a super winnable fight for Trevin Giles. Granted, I wish that he was a part of a bigger camp, so we could really get behind his training and his preparation a little bit more. But I'll tell you what, like, when I was digging into Gustafsson's strength of schedule, it's pretty damn poor, Jason. I mean, in like certain regions of the world, we know what to expect. Alaska FC, we know what to expect. Certain other spots, we know what to expect. Gustafsson's strength of schedule, his opponent's win rate sits at 48% compared to Giles' 70%. Gustafsson's, within his wins, his opponents have a win rate of 42% compared to Giles' 63%. I mean, like, Gustafsson's aggressive to a point, but I mean, when you look at the strikes attempted, I think it's going to be pretty damn close. I mean, 5.9, granted, it's a small sample size for Gustafsson, but 5.9 attempted per minute, 5.87 for Giles. The takedowns will be attempted from Gustafsson here, probably attempting 5 per 15 minutes. But going up against Trevin Giles, who can defend takedowns pretty well, just kind of leaves his neck out there and is a sucker for getting guillotined. I think that you're not going to see Gustafsson land more than 1, maybe 2 takedowns. So it's not like he's going to ragdoll Trevin Giles. And I just don't really have faith that he's going to outstrike Trevin Giles here. I think just Trevin could really just give him a vet lesson. Having a UFC debut is tough enough. Going up against the guy who's fought an absolute crazy schedule is even tougher. I'm not willing to put the stamp of approval on Gustafson here, Jason. So, I mean, give me another underdog. Give me Trevin Giles to pull off the slight upset.
This, when you're talking about this being a short notice opportunity here for Trevin Giles, this just kind of seems like this is the, hey, you can take this fight or your time's probably up. And that's what it seems here for Gustafsson, who was supposed to take on Jeremiah Wells initially in this matchup. And where my projections on when it comes to the salaries for this one, I'm expecting Gustafsson to be 8,400 and Giles to be 7,800. And my problem with Giles, when we talk about DFS, I've just never viewed him as a guy that I want to get to. I just feel like I've been burned so many times with him.
I don't blame you because he's not the best DFS performer. So, like, if you get him, what's the likelihood of him getting above 75 points? Not likely. So, I mean, like, sometimes on certain slates, if a lot of favorites win, you could have that underdog that scores 60 or 70 make its way into the optimal lineup. But with our prediction of him being 7,800, you're probably going to need a little bit more. You spend up a little bit to Macy, Chiasson, or Ketlen, Vieira. They're probably going to have more than 75. I would be willing to bet. So, I think it's a betting call, not necessarily a DFS call, but I'm willing to be wrong here. Give me Trevin Giles.
Next up, we got a matchup that I'm just labeling as trust issues. Kurt Holobaugh versus Jordan Levitt. Kurt Holobaugh plus 160 betting underdog. He's 7,500 on DraftKings. Jordan Levitt, he's minus 190 on the betting side at 8,700 on DK. Last time we saw Kurt Holobaugh was back in March, decision loss against Alexander Hernandez. Kurt is 2-2 since returning to the UFC after appearing on The Ultimate Fighter. His last 3 fights have gone the distance, and the stat to me that sticks out is a 39% takedown defense for Kurt Holobaugh in UFC competition. Since coming back to UFC, he has been taken down 12 times in those 4 fights. Jordan Levitt, he's coming off a submission loss against Chase Hooper. That was all the way back in November 2023. 4-3 in the UFC. 6 of his 7 UFC fights have ended via finish. And Pete, this is just my one question to you. Are you ready to back Syndicate MMA fighter?
Oh, I'm glad you asked me, Jason, because when you mentioned that 39% takedown defense for Kurt Holobaugh, that's like music to my ears. We know Jordan Levitt's expertise is on the mat. His wrestling is very good. He's aggressive in attempting it, too. He'll pin you to the cage. He even took down Paddy Pimblett. He looked like he was, kind of muscling Paddy around a little bit before he got subbed. But I'll tell you what, Jordan Levitt's striking's not good. It's awkward. So he needs to limit the striking as much as possible because, you have Kurt Holobaugh attempting 10 strikes per minute, whereas Levitt will be attempting 4. You do not want to be on the receiving end of Kurt Holobaugh. The takedowns is where this fight is going to be decided, right? Go to take Kurt Holobaugh down. Don't get guillotined because he has an excellent guillotine. Outside of that, I do think that Jordan Levitt will completely mop the floor with him in the wrestling and grappling department. 2.19 takedowns landed per 15 minutes with 25% accuracy leads to 8.76 takedowns attempted per 15 minutes. If this goes 15 minutes, Jordan Levitt gets 5 takedowns all day long. He might need less than that. He might not even need a lot. I mean, like, we could see Jordan Levitt switch to a submission. Yes, he has been getting subbed. He got subbed against Paddy Pimblett. He got subbed against Chase Hooper. But let's just call it what it is. His grappling is good. And just because he was submitted by other talented grapplers doesn't mean that he can't go out there and submit Kurt Holobaugh. Just has to be very, very careful of the guillotine. Because, like, I may hedge betting by just betting Kurt Holobaugh inside the distance just because I feel like he's a finish-only fighter. But with 9 years younger, I think Jordan Levitt, this is a very winnable matchup and one where he should go in there and shine. And I will say something, Jason. If we exclude Merab Dvalishvili from the equation, is Jordan Levitt Syndicate MMA's best fighter? Because I think it is. I think he is. And I think he's probably one of the few that I've backed time and time again. I think he's probably the best Syndicate MMA fighter if we exclude Merab Dvalishvili. Because I'm not counting him. He's Sarah Longo. I'm not counting that. That doesn't count. I mean, I know he spends 90% of his time in Vegas now, but I'm still not counting it. I think Jordan Levitt's the best guy from Syndicate.
I was just starting to look this up here because obviously you're also excluding Aljamain Sterling.
That doesn't count, dude. I mean,
So I'm just pulling up Tapology here and see if there's someone that maybe we're just not thinking about here.
There's nobody. A bunch of people like do like a camp with him. Like, I'm not saying like, I still think he's probably the best one.
Khalil Roundtree,
Ooh.
Luma Lukbumi.
Loma's on team number 5. I think you got me with Khalil. I'll probably agree and say Khalil, but outside of that,
As I scroll down Tapology, no one else is sticking out.
yeah, Khalil. You got me with Khalil though. That's a good call.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just the fact that we've not seen Jordan since November 2023. Okay, that's a long time ago. I mean, we're talking well over a year and a half ago since we've seen him. What kind of improvements have been made there? But yeah, man, it's just when I saw the price tag, I was just like, oh my god! Like, you see the path. There's no question.
Oh, yeah.
You see the path for him, but you just kind of look at it and go, oof. Man, it's a big price tag, but probably very good reason to own him in DFS. Very, very good reasons. 2 more matchups here we got left. We got Marquel Medeiros taking on Oki. Oki at minus 180, betting favorite. He's 8,900 DK. Medeiros is plus 150 and 7,300 on DK. For Marquel, last time we saw him was back in March, getting that split decision win versus Austin Hubbard. 2-0 in the UFC. Both those wins have come via decision. Oki on the other side, coming off a first-round submission loss, who was nearly a 2-1 betting favorite against Chris Delkin back in September. This fight was originally booked for February. He will have a 4-inch reach advantage. I was actually watching a little bit of the interview that Medeiros had done. He's like, and I kind of chuckled when I heard him say this. He goes, yeah, I really like this matchup. What fighter is going to go and interview? You know what? I really don't like this matchup for myself. I'm just sitting there, I'm listening to this interview, and I'm just going, and I just, for some reason, it just popped in my head like, there has never been in the history of fighter interviews a fighter go, you know what? I really don't like this matchup for me. It's a really bad matchup.
Yeah, I mean, right? Like, you've been interviewing fighters and being a reporter in MMA media forever. That there are certain questions that, you already know the answer to. And then you also know fighters, how they're going to react. And so you can't read into interviews as much as maybe MMA Twitter does. I will say, though, for whatever reason, Balaji Oki has always been a massive favorite in majority of his fights. He gets so much respect from the betting community. And I think it's because his combinations are pretty fierce. He's an athletic specimen. When you start to dive into the numbers, 5.63 strikes landed per minute for Oki, 3.75 for Medeiros, translates to 12 attempted for Oki and 7.5 attempted for Medeiros. So, we will see Balaji Oki be a little bit more of an active striker in this matchup. Both guys have pretty solid striking defense, though, which can totally limit the output, limit the success, and make their skills somewhat negate each other, sitting at 62% for Medeiros in striking defense and 63% for Balaji Oki. If takedowns happen in this fight, Jason, it's going to be from Balaji Oki looking to implement some takedowns to win some close rounds or put a stamp on a round. 2.11 takedowns landed per 15 minutes. Translates to 2.8 takedowns attempted per 15 minutes. So nothing crazy. He's not the best grappler in the world, but he can wrestle. He's athletic. He's strong. But both of these guys have 85% takedown defensive ratings. So it's like, what the hell's going to happen here? So I think it's mainly going to be a striking matchup. If you go back and you look at Marquel Medeiros, his regional career, there was a time where Marquel Medeiros as an amateur was knocked out. But as a professional, he's been pretty damn good. His lone defeat comes to Santiago Guzman via split decision. I went back and I saw the Roy Garza fight where Marquel Medeiros was hit with a big shot and knocked out. I always like to look because I'm like, all right, well, I know that Balaji Oki has crazy power. Can Oki knock him out, or is Oki going to be kind of just looking to win a decision? And I was watching Balaji Oki's tape too, and I'll tell you, both of these fighters do not have the greatest strength of schedules at all. Strength of schedule for Blanchfield, his opponent's win rate sits at 49%. For Medeiros, his opponent's win rate sits at 53%. Pretty poor. And it's like, all right, well, I mean, Markel Medeiros has fought slightly tougher competition. I do think that Blanchfield is a little bit more talented than him, but this is one where the firepower, the moment's edge resides with Blanchfield for me. I think we could be seeing, Medeiros maybe getting the better of Blanchfield in moments, but then we see Blanchfield hit him with one big shot that you see Medeiros' eyes go wide, whether he finishes him with it or looks to hurt him. He has a great liver shot, which you guys know me. I love fighters that dig to the body. Not only that, he has 3.5 inches in the height plus reach department. I like Blanchfield here. I really do. I think that he's slightly more volume in everything. Makes me like him. More firepower. The fight IQ, though, I do think, though, that I would probably say Markel Medeiros is a little bit wiser with his MMA game than what I have been seeing from Blanchfield. Just some instinctive flaws that I have seen from Blanchfield, but granted, it was against Chris Duncan where he got guillotined. And then on short notice, Timmy Kawamba took him to a split decision too. So I was just like, golly, man, I don't know. Maybe just everybody's overhyping this Blanchfield kid. I wouldn't want a parlay attached to this fight. I'll tell you that. I will pick Blanchfield to beat Markel Medeiros here, and I do think that he might hit him with a shot and knock him out. But it's one that I don't have a ton of conviction on, so I will side with Blanchfield.
Yeah, I side with him as well, but also the price tag, I do kind of get concerned if we see the durability of Marco Medeiros and how does he pay off that 8,900 price tag. It's just kind of
right
concerned with me. Then our opening fight of the night, which I'm just labeling no thanks. We got Dos Santos taking on Elise. Elise a plus 235 betting underdog. She's 6,900 DK. Dos Santos is a minus 290 betting favorite, and she's the most expensive fighter on DraftKings this week at 9,300. She is coming off a split decision loss back in June of last year. She's 0-2 in the UFC. Both those losses have come by the split decision. She is the former Invicta atomweight champion, and when you look at Elise on the other side, she's also 0-2 in the UFC. Both her losses come by decision, most recently losing October against Melissa Martinez. Pete,
bro, I don't know what the hell Vegas is thinking here or what they're trying to set us up with, but how the hell is Dos Santos such a massive favorite over anybody? I mean, let's be real. I mean, I'm not really impressed with Dos Santos at all. You have her going up against Alice Artelene. I'm not impressed with her either. But when you look at the stats, granted it's limited because of their experience inside the UFC and on the Contender Series for Dos Santos. It's a head scratcher, right? Like, we have Dos Santos with 4.36 significant strikes landed per minute, 4.97 for Artelene. So she has better strikes landed per minute. When it comes to strikes attempted, the strikes attempted for Dos Santos sits at 10. For Artelene, it sits at 11. The takedowns is where it's a little bit interesting. You have 0.33 takedowns per 15 minutes for Dos Santos, but she attempts about 2.75 per 15 minutes. So the issue is that Artelene has pretty solid takedown defense, as evidenced in the UFC thus far. I think it's going to be tested. I think that Dos Santos, when she mixes in her wrestling, she's at her best. But Artelene has also attempted takedowns as well. So this comes really down to youth for me. I mean, in women's MMA, I do think that youth is pretty significant factor, more than other divisions. And certain, for me, flyweights, age means a lot because it's such a fast twitch weight class that you cannot be lacking in any area. In women's MMA, I think that typically the slightly younger fighter that has similar volume should have the edge. But what did you say that the betting odds are on here? Or she's minus 200, minus 300. That's kind of nuts to me. I just don't see anything on tape that makes me think, wow, she should be that. I just, yeah, minus 340. That's nuts, Jason. I just don't see that unless she goes out here and laces up her wrestling shoes. I think it's going to be a close fight. And honestly, the edge for me is the youth advantage. And you don't want that when you have a minus 300 favorite attached to your parlays or especially in DFS. I don't think that either fighter is a priority. I would do a complete pass of this fight for most of my DFS lineups unless I was playing in a 150. For betting, why? Why bother? I'd probably just possibly play the takedown props and hope, but every time I want Dos Santos to take people down, she strikes. Every time I want her to strike, she takes people down. So I just have no faith in her at this massive price tag. But on the flip side, like, I don't think Artelene is good either. I mean, the strength of schedule, Jason, for both fighters is pretty poor. 51% win rate for Dos Santos' opponents, 56% for Artelene's opponents, 38% win rate for Dos Santos' opponents in her wins, 31% for Artelene. So it's an edge towards Dos Santos, but how the hell you justify 3,400 minus 340? I can't bring myself to do so. I think she wins. I think she puts up a terrible score if she doesn't wrestle. So yeah, I'll pick her, but I honestly hate it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is more about betting against Elise than anything else. I but have zero interest in roster at 9,300 Dos Santos, and maybe I'll be wrong in my analysis of that. But and then when you're talking about nearly a 3-1 betting favorite here, nah. Yes, how? I mean, that is the best way to put it. How? I
want to look at the public money right now. Hold on. This is crazy. I mean, Vegas is tempting you to take Alice Artelene here. I mean, that's typically that's what it is. It's a trap bet. And maybe when the fight kicks off, we'll see Dos Santos look like an absolute killer. But when I'm looking at everything, I can't justify it. I mean, here it is. How can I justify it? So we have, a lot of money has come in on Artelene. You notice that?
Yeah.
Dos Santos is down to a minus 270, which I think that's a little bit more realistic. But still, 85% of the money is on Dos Santos. Meanwhile, Artelene's a plus 220 underdog. Good God Almighty. Good luck on that. I'm not playing it.
Exactly. Let's get into our straight fight picks before we get into some listener questions. The main event, I will go Erin Blanchfield.
Yeah, Blanchfield for me, buddy.
Co-main, I'm going to go
Gamrot.
I'll go Goff.
Billy Goff.
Jacoby.
I knew you were doing that. I'm going to go Lopes.
Reese.
I'm going to take the gamble on Todorovic.
Nascimento.
I will go Filho.
Chiasson. Gustafsson.
I'll go Giles.
Levitt.
Oki.
And I will go Dos Santos in the opening fight.
I'll go Artelene. Just kidding. I'll go Dos Santos.
Sam, I appreciate the super chat. It says, consider these being at the apex. Who will have the highest takedown takes as a takedown king and queen of the night? So I'm just kind of looking. I'm looking up the fight card from top to bottom. You got to look at, to me, Jordan Levitt would stick out to me. Todorovic, I think, is another one that sticks out. Gamrot and Blanchfield.
Yeah, let me look at. I have. If Goff wrestles, bro, I have him as the highest potential, but I don't think that he's going to want to. I think he's just going to want to strike. I have Todorovic with massive numbers. I also have Jordan Levitt, the second highest on the slate following Goff. So I think Jordan Levitt's clearly the easiest play for takedowns. Don't sleep on Filho, only because Nascimento has 16% takedown defense. So it could be more of accepting the takedown than actually, succeeding with it.
Next up, Scott says Blanchfield Barber stack in cash games. And it was something you kind of talked a little bit earlier on the show. I don't mind it in cash. GPPs would be a no, but cash, I don't mind it.
So 7,100, right?
Yep.
For Maycee Barber. If I do that, leaves me with 84.50 when I stack them for the rest of my lineups. Do I like anybody below 7,100 as a cash game punt? No, it's Todorovic and it's Alice Ardelian. In cash games, I'll probably say yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind it at all, but it's definitely not one where I'm expecting the loser to have 80 points. I think it's more of a 40 points and just take it and move on.
Value plays underneath AK and a core 3 on DraftKings. To me, I think when I'm looking at a core 3, I probably start with Erin Blanchfield just because of the takedown upside. Then I would probably say, then I would go Billy Goff, and then give me Macy Chiasson as a third.
I agree. I totally agree. But I will flip it, and instead of giving you Macy Chiasson, I'll go Jordan Levitt, even though I still have 79.67 for the 3 remaining fighters. That's pretty damn good.
In terms of the value plays underneath AK, I would look at Klein at 7,700 and Filho at 7,600.
Yeah, I was looking, right? Like, I think that Klein can probably get 70 points in a win because he's going to have to be defending a ton. So when you're defending for 10 of the 15 minutes, how many fantasy points can you really score?
Yeah.
I think that Filho, Lopes, and Todorovic are kind of the 3 that I'll be looking at under 8K as just like, you don't feel good about them, but you got to get to them. And then Giles when Giles' salary comes out.
No doubt about it. We got some questions in here from Tristan next. He goes, best leverage play. I mean, it's probably going to be Dos Santos just because, I think no one's going to get to her. Then I think, kind of looking at the high end, maybe Jacoby would be the second least owned if we're talking from 8,700 and up. Because I feel like all the rest of them would be pretty highly owned. Other leverage spots. There's not a ton that really sticks out to me. I mean, the Dos Santos one to me seems like the easy call.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty chalky week, guys. I mean, we only got 11 fights, right? So it's not much we can really, stand out. I think it's clearly Dos Santos, but she has to wrestle. I mean, she attempted 4 takedowns on the Contender Series against Denise Gomes, landed 1. I think the girl, her best skill set is when she wrestles. I thought she was going to be legitimately good. I remember watching that fight saying, Denise Gomes is gross. She's so good. But this girl, Dos Santos, I think has skills, and it just has not translated at all.
Ranking at 9K options, Pete, I just think it's easy. Blanchfield, Reese, Dos Santos.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think
that's pretty. I wish Oban Elliott was on the card. I'm a big fan of Oban. I like him a lot.
Sam, we'll start with Sam's Road to the Man Series 4.5. Sam, I just feel like you got to take the over. That's way too low.
I thought the number was 5.5. Mm-hmm. It's only 11 fights though, Jason.
Yeah,
but I still think that's so low.
Yeah. Best top plays. I mean, Reese, you see the volatility of, if he gets taken down. You like the 25-minute aspect of Blanchfield, so I think you probably got to put her up there. God, I mean, Jordan Levitt, he could seriously be one of the better options this week if he can implement the grappling.
If he does not get guillotined, I like it. There, in 2 of his 3 losses, he lost to Hooper via submission. He lost to Patty Pimlet via submission. We know that Kurt Hollabaugh is primarily known as a striker, but he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but he does not have great takedown defense. He does have a very threatening guard, and he has a good guillotine. So I think, come on, Syndicate MMA. Let's not get guillotined here. Because if I back Jordan Levitt and he gets guillotined against freaking Kurt Hollabaugh, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to have exposure to Hollabaugh just because there are multiple. He's a finish-only fighter. I don't see him winning 15 minutes against Jordan Levitt. I just don't.
When we talk about next one's about live dogs. Just looking at it from a DraftKings perspective, I think you got to look at Todorovic just because of the takedown upside. Bruno Lopes, if he's able to implement the grappling aspect, get that fight to the ground. And then I'd probably then go Klein, then Filho.
Yeah. And then I think there are several underdogs that can come through. It's just who scores the best. Like Todorovic, if he wins, it's a crazy score. I think that there is crazy toughness associated with him. Like he's too tough for his own damn good a lot of times, and like he's just been he's taken so much damage. If the going gets tough in that fight, I favor him over Reese. I think that Macy is an underdog, slight underdog, makes sense. Filho, I'm excited to see what they price Trevin Giles at. Should be 7,800. If they misprice him somehow, then it might make it a little bit more interesting for me. But he's not the best DFS scorer. So yeah, I think that we kind of hit the nail on the head as far as those underdogs. They're live, but not live to score well, other than Todorovic in my eyes.
Best decision, odd fighters. I look at Blanchfield. I look at Gamrot, Chiasson, and probably Dos Santos.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
Next up, the top leverage, the high 8Ks. Probably Nascimento, if we're including 8,600.
Oh, good point. He's nasty. Like, he's very, very good. And, like, this could be a situation where people just, like, forget. He is going up against Filho, who did get submitted, against Muhammad Mokaev in the third round. So, I mean, like, if Nascimento is able to put him in a compromising situation, he could sub him. He's got excellent submission skill set. The price point, I think that he'll kind of be like one of the most forgotten fighters, a part of the entire DFS card.
Next up, top optimal plays. I think it starts with picking a side in a Reese and Dusko. I think that's where it starts. Yeah. And then I think it's picking a side in the main event. And then fill out your roster with 4 other fighters.
Totally agree.
Top pump plays. We've mentioned about Dusko Todorovic if he can implement the grappling.
I think he could strike though too. I mean, like, but I'm with you. He needs to just be careful. He's got to just make it ugly.
Top captains and MVPs. If the salaries for the captain contest was already out, Billy Goff I think would be an interesting captain MVP.
He'd be my number one.
But that price tag is going to be drastically different for the captain contest than it is.
He'd probably be the most expensive fighter on the slate, right?
Yeah. Blanchfield obviously is going to be highly owned. I almost feel like you just don't overthink it. You take Reese or Dusko and you put them a captain. I just feel like you just don't overthink it.
Yeah, you got to embrace the volatility for DFS, right? You have to.
Jason and Pete specials, for me, that's the first fight of the night. Absolutely zero thanks. And then, of course, for Pete, that would be the Vieira and Chiasson fight, which kind of talked about kind of a sneaky fight there for GPP. But as always, we do appreciate everyone who tunes into each and every episode of Fight HQ. We're here on Monday nights, with the exception of June the 9th. I'll talk to you about that later.
Okay.
I'm on vacation, so I'm not going to be able to do a show. I would not expect where I'm going to be at. I'm going to be able to do a show, but but that'll be following UFC 316, which is next week. Of course, that's going to be Merab and O'Malley. Allegedly, Merab injured his toe. We'll see what happens with that. I think the real main event anyway, that fight card is a co-main event, Pena and Harrison. That's just my perspective on it. Of course, Pete, let everyone know about your Patreon page.
Yeah, appreciate it. If you click the link in the description below, my Patreon has my projection system, in addition to strength of schedules for each fighter, in addition to strength of their wins. I have a pace rating attached to each fighter, so you can try to roster high-paced fighters, which typically translates to DFS production. And then I have fight pace rating as well, which gives you indication of which fights could be duds, which fights could blow the doors off, and which ones could be slept on. So you can click the link in the description below for my Patreon. As always, we appreciate you guys checking us out every Monday night. You know, if you can hit that like button, getting us over 100 likes, help us shoot towards 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. I already know you 300 plus members in Discord really enjoy the channel, enjoy the community. Jason and I appreciate you guys tremendously.
I just need to get your facial reaction on something.
Okay.
I saw this article come across my timeline a little earlier. It's from MMAmania.com. Headline: Iconic regional fighter with over 100 losses still kind of sad he missed the UFC boat despite hell of a resume.
Jay Ellis?
Yes.
No, he got an article written about him.
I guess he did an interview. I mean,
good for him, man.
Yeah, the quote was, "I have a hell of a resume, man. Every time I look at those guys I fought in the UFC, I get kind of sad because I know I could have been there if I stayed focused and taken it seriously. If I had the right coaches and positive people around me, I could have made it, man. After I left Henry's gym, I tried to be independent, and that's where I fell off. I was winning fights at first, and people didn't know what had happened. Things happened at home, and I couldn't afford gym fees anymore, so I was bouncing around doing my thing. This wasn't too smart because I should have had a team. Then promoters kept calling, and I was taking fights left and right. Yeah, because promoters, you knew you always take a fight. You would never, and you would show up regardless."
Right. Yeah, and when the wheels fell off a little bit, they started drastically falling off, and next thing you know, it's spiraling out of control, and you're like, well, you know, you dug yourself a big hole, you know, and credit to him, he's fought tougher competition than anybody. He's fought every legitimate fighter out there. I mean, credit to him. If there's an award for fighting the toughest strength of schedule, he should receive it.
Yeah, especially when you talk to regional pros these days, where they talk about the struggle to get fighters to take any type of fight. That's just not a showcase fight. I mean, what has really happened in the regional side of this sport is very much a boxing model, where it is about just padding up that record just to get to the UFC. As I had one person in, she said to me, and it really stuck out to me. He goes, one of the things I always wonder is, do you want to be a UFC champion, or do you just want the Instagram bio?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. One of these days I will do a strength of schedule for Jay Ellis, because I would imagine that his strength of schedule of who he's fought, there's probably a win rate above 75-80%. Like, I think I guarantee it's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, the best fighter on this entire card is Matesuz Gamrot, who's fought ridiculous strength of schedule. 71% for Matesuz Gamrot. I would only imagine Jay Ellis is 75 plus. It's got to be ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, and especially anywhere in the Northeast, Midwest, if a fighter has made it to the UFC, good chance they probably fought Jay Ellis at some point.
Yep.
It's just the way it is. But as always, we do appreciate everyone who tunes in. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button if you're watching us here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, or if you listen to us on podcasting platforms, be sure to leave a rating and review. So that's going to do it for this episode of Fight HQ. We'll talk to you next week as we get you ready for UFC 315.